The possible coalition is beginning to emerge. How do you think this is going to play out?
Well, I think that a lot of people were tired of a grand coalition, but now there seems to be no alternative unless there would be new elections. I would not be afraid or scared of new elections, but new elections only make sense if there would be a grand shift, for example, in the personal and the policies of the Social Democratic Party. Otherwise, nothing has changed since the last elections. But I fear that there are great incentives within the Social Democratic Party to enter a grand coalition again, because they would only possibly lose out in a new election. They can get the ministers now for further 4 years. And Ms. Merkel is in a quite uncomfortable bargaining position because she now depends on the SPD. And all these three arguments are strong causes for another grand coalition, I'm afraid.
And for your party, what does this mean? Where does your party stand if there's another grand coalition?
Well, if there's another grand coalition, we will do our job and try to put pressure, especially on the Social Democratic Party, to liberate itself from grand coalition. I think liberating itself from the grand coalition and really having a fundamental change of its policies, becoming social democratic again, if I may say. This is the only way they could win an election again. We can witness it everywhere across Europe. In Portugal, for example, social democracy stopped the cuts with support of left-wing parties in a minority government, and they're stable in the polls. Wherever social democratic parties have embarked on a program of economic neoliberalism, of austerity, they have basically slipped down in the polls and they vanished in some instances, if you look at France, if you look at Greece and other countries. So I think if the Social Democratic Party wants to survive, they need to reinvent themselves.
Angela Merkel clearly doesn't want new elections. What bargaining power does that give the SPD?
I think it gives quite some bargaining power to SPD, and this is why there are no excuses now for the SPD not to push really for a more social democratic program. However, Ms. Merkel might also threaten them and say, okay, if you play chicken run, then I may just call new elections, and that's her gun in her hand, because she knows that Social Democratic Party is in a very dire state right now, and if they would have to face new elections, they might lose out further. So I think both have very strong, powerful weapons in their hand, and it depends a little bit on who has the nerves of steel, basically, to survive these talks. And we know that Ms. Merkel really is good in having a poker face.
Did the Liberal leader have nerves of steel, or did he call the wrong card?
I think the Liberal leader was really prepared to do what he did. I think that they had planned this whole basically blasting of the Jamaica talks for a long time, because soon after they left, the media was full of it. They had prepared tweets and everything. So I think it was really planned, a staged coup, because he had no interest, now that the FDP re-entered the parliament, basically to join a government where they would have to compromise on certain aspects and maybe not delivering to their own voter base. And I think that he very consciously tried to not enter a government, and he simply tried to simulate his willingness to do so for a few weeks.